So let's look at our food. You may have seen these slides before. From 1900 to 2000, our overall meat consumption has gone up in the United States from about less than 150, right at 150 pounds per person, to about 202 pounds per person. And many people come to my office and say, well, Doc, I don't eat much meat. I cut back on the meat. And to some extent, when they say that, to a large extent when they say that, they're talking about red meat. And so that's true. Many people have reduced red meat. In our country, red meat reduction has gone down. But what's happened is the chicken has gone up exponentially. Those Chick-fil-A commercials have made a big impact on our society. And so we see the exponential increase in chicken over time. Yes, where's the beef? Well, it's for dinner. It's still available. This is an image of T-bone steak with a little pus coming out of there. And just a little reminder of this meat that you're eating. This is from diseased animals. And so the butcher's pretty good. He'll scoop out most of this, a little bit for flavoring. And he'll cut that up and they'll season it, put it on your plate, and you're ready to have dinner. And so you don't see that, but you're eating that stuff. You're eating pus, eating all sorts of other diseases with these animals. How about cheese? Wow, exponential growth in cheese over time. Again, from 1900 to 2000, amount of cheese have almost gone up by tenfold. Okay, so we eat a lot of cheese. Sugar. Now, there's a big campaign against sugar. Okay, oh, the sugar, it's the sugar. Get rid of the sugar, carb busters, low carb. Well, let's look at the data. From about the 1960s, 2002, if you look at this red bar, it's a little bit complex slide. The red bar shows sugar going up over time, but also taking a little bit of a dip. Probably from 1996 to 2002, sugar drops. But if you look at the cause of this increase in sugar, the blue graph shows natural cane and beet sugar going down. But what's going up? High fructose corn syrup. So really the increase in sugar is a lot of processed sugars that we're consuming over time. So, sugar isn't bad. Bad sugar is bad. I mean, sugar in the form of fruits and vegetables and things like that are natural sugars. They're in their natural state. And so they're good for the body. It's just that we're consuming a lot of processed sugars, and that's the problem. Now, let me show you a little comparison slide. Let's take diabetes, because that's a major problem. It contributes to heart disease. And you look at the exponential growth in diabetes from 1980 to 2010. Now, let's look at the change in our dietary habits. Now, many people think that diabetes is due to sugar, right? So if the prevalence of diabetes is going up, it should match the prevalence of increased consumption of sugar if it's the diabetes, right? But look at this curve here. Okay, this curve does not go up like this. It kind of goes up and then it plateaus and actually comes down. Now, if you superimpose this curve over here, and the data is from 1960s on, so it probably goes back farther, but from this point here of the curve forward and superimpose up here, this curve would actually go here. In fact, from 1960 to 2002, the amount of sugar consumption has decreased in the population, still not matching up to the increased prevalence of diabetes. But then look at the cheese and look at the chicken. You can almost superimpose these graphs on top of there. Now, this isn't scientific what I'm doing here, but I'm making a point that it's not obvious that our increased consumption in sugar matches the increased prevalence of diabetes. In fact, it's obvious that it doesn't match it. And so we have to think beyond this whole concept of sugar causing diabetes. There's evidence that sugar really doesn't cause diabetes. It's the meat consumption. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Now, as I mentioned, I'm not the first to come up with this. Many physicians came before me, were able to apply nutrition in treating cardiovascular disease. Dr. Lester Morrison, back in 1946, this is probably a couple of years before the famous Framingham study. He took two groups of individuals, two groups of 50 individuals who had survived a heart attack. One group he had put on a low meat, low fat diet. The other group had put them on a regular diet, continue to eat what they were eating. And he followed them over 12 years, which I find was remarkable. And essentially what he found was a 38% survival benefit in the individuals who had the experimental diet. So just by reducing it, he didn't remove all the meat. He reduced the amount of meat consumption and fat. in one group, and the other group ate the regular amount. Just by simply reducing it, he had a 38% survival benefit. And so at the end of 12 years, about 19 people survived who were on the experimental diet. Everybody who ate the regular diet was dead by then. So a pretty significant improvement. You all know about Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn. Dr. Esselstyn, back in 1985, started following 23 patients. 5 of them dropped out of his study, and he put them on a plant-based diet and followed them for 5 years. He did follow the 5 individuals as a control group. So 18 on plant-based diet, 5 on the regular diets who didn't want to follow the program. And what he saw is that he saw a decrease in total cholesterol from 246 milligrams to 132 in that period of time. Reduction in coronary events. They were having few episodes of chest discomfort compared to prior to starting the study. And interesting enough, about 11 patients out of the 18 that he had, 11 of them underwent repeat coronary angiograms. And on average, you saw a 7% reduction. So the arteries open up by 7% on the coronary angiograms, so it had a significant contribution to improving coronary flow. So 5 of the individuals who did not follow the program had more coronary events subsequent to this time period. So here's a diagram of one of his patients who had a significant LAD lesion, and after about 3 years of repeat angiogram, this lesion had reversed. And so the body heals itself in the setting of nutrition, of proper nutrition. Dr. Dean Ornish, whom you're familiar with, did the lifestyle heart trial. And again, he took patients and put them on a low-fat, no animal diet. He also added exercise, meditation, and breathing relaxation techniques. He used no drugs or surgeries, important. And what did he see? Well, in the study group, reduction in cholesterol from 227 milligrams to 172. The LDL, which is the bad cholesterol, went from 152 to 95. And there was an average of 4% regression of coronary artery stenosis on individuals who had repeat angiogram. This is after 1 year. And he had a 91% reduction in the frequency of chest pain in that 1 year period of time. Compared to the control group, these are guys that did not follow this program, did the usual thing, had significantly worse cholesterol levels, had a 165% increase in chest discomfort, had an 8% increase in coronary artery stenosis. So on this side, the study group, the arteries open up by 4%. In the non-study group, the arteries closed up by another 8%. So it's really a 12% differential. The point here is critical because there's no in between. Notice there are only 2 sides. The study group got better, the control group got worse. And we have a concept that if I just continue to do what I'm doing, everything will stay the same. I have this amount of heart disease, I feel okay now, so why do I need to go through this drastic lifestyle change when I can just sort of keep doing what I'm doing now, go for a little walk, a little jog, eat my little chicken and fish every now and then. The problem is that you won't stay where you are. You have 2 options. You can get better or you can get worse. There's no in between. And so that's one thing that we have to understand is that these lifestyle changes, not only are they helping us get better, but they're keeping us from getting worse. And that's so if you had 1 stroke, then you're trying to graduate to 2 strokes. If you had a mild heart attack, you're graduating to a major heart attack. If your pumping function is 55%, you're trying to get it down to 45, then 35, then we implant your defibrillator. So you're only getting worse over time if you're not making these changes. So is this hocus pocus, or is there some scientific evidence? We know that leafy greens have nitrates in it, results in the formation of nitric oxide, which is a potent vasodilator, so the arteries dilate. So when you start to eat lots of leafy greens on a regular basis, within days, you start to have the coronary arteries dilate. It improves the vascular endothelial function. That decreases clotting and does a lot of wonderful things for coronary flow. The mitochondrial oxidative phosphorylation, that's the amount of how efficient you convert oxygen to ATP. So if you're jogging and breathing, and maybe if you're out of shape and you're eating bad food, you may have to take 10 breaths, for a certain amount of ATP production so your muscles can work effectively. But if you eat lots of leafy greens, veggies, that conversion of oxygen to ATP is much more efficient. So maybe I only have to take 5 breaths. after consuming. There's data showing that your exercise capacity improves with consuming plant-based foods, particularly with leafy greens. And mitochondrial function, the mitochondrial dysfunction, which can be reversed, leads to reversal of insulin resistance and leads to reversal or improvement of myocyte function. The heart can pump better theoretically.